I'm Rob Gatroy, Principal Consultant with Armoured Consulting. In our role as independent consultants to the civilian armoured vehicle industry, one of our primary goals is to provide up-to-date information that is of a high technical content for members of the industry, particularly for the procurement agencies, fleet managers and users. To help further this goal, we're expanding our YouTube channel to now include interviews with key members and stakeholders in the civilian armoured vehicle industry. Over the coming year, we hope to feature key leaders from procurement agencies, up-armourers, specialist component manufacturers, suppliers of base vehicles and other key specialists. Today we featured Tim Renes, who is currently the Chairman of VPAM. As most of you know, VPAM is the European Association of Test Facilities that provides the commonly used and referenced blast and ballistic testing standards, the actual testing themselves, and certification. We've invited Tim to join us today to provide some important updates and news as to VPAM as an organisation. He will also speak briefly about the two main standards as they relate to civilian armoured vehicles and the issues relating to the blast standard ERV 2010 Edition 3. In addition, he will raise the issues of transparency within VPAM, as well as the organisation's plans going forward, including interaction with industry. Finally too, we did spend some time discussing the ongoing impetus towards the requirement for conformity of production, that being the review and audit of a vehicle in production as against vehicle zero, that is, the vehicle design and build state that was actually certified. Tim was in his hotel room when I conducted this interview and operating off his mobile phone, so my apologies that sometimes the video quality is a little bit challenging. But rest assured that the information he is sharing with us today is current, important, and sets the scene for a vibrant future. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and keep up to date with all our new interviews and other videos that we post onto our YouTube channel. So enough of me, please welcome Mr. Tim Renes. Good morning, Tim, and welcome to the first of our interviews with industry. It's lovely to have you with us.
Very good morning to you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. All right. Why don't we start and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, the work that you do with TNO and also your role in VPAM.
Yeah, of course. First of all, a very warm welcome to the Armored Vehicles audience as well for your care forum, of course. About myself, I'm an employee of TNO, a Dutch research institute. We do testing for vehicles, for vests, for helmets, and the like. And my role for VPAM actually is a role where I'm currently chair of the VPAM and trying to connecting the dots. So it is an additional role, and I take that very seriously. And we have some very interesting news coming up. So go ahead with the questions, then we can maybe share a few very interesting things.
All right, so let's maybe start, because VPAM is well known in the industry, but I think there may be some degree of confusion or misunderstanding as to exactly what VPAM is, who belongs to it, and what is their purpose and the services or the raison d'etre, if you like, pardon my Australian accent, not French, for the organisation, because it does play an extremely important role for industry.
Yes, well, let me share you a little bit of the past, then the present, and the future or near future. In the past, some people ask themselves, why is VPAM German speaking? Well, that is a very simple reason. 25 years ago, a Swiss gentleman called Mr. Beat Kneubel, he actually got the idea of a German-speaking group, because English 25 years ago for German speaking was not always very comfortable, and they could better interact in the German language. So that's how they ended up with a couple of German-speaking countries and people that wanted to join VPAM. That's the only reason why it got German. So to better understand each other and the guideline standards that they were developing. So 25 years ago means we have our 25th anniversary. So that is something we probably want to celebrate, but not this year or a little bit, but for sure next year. About the present, at this moment, VPAM is a group of people writing guidelines for helmets, for vests, for vehicles. I'll get to that later. But we do not have a legal entity, and that sometimes makes VPAM quite vulnerable. And I think it's very important, and VPAM decided about that 7 to 8 years ago. We will need to have a legal entity in place to make VPAM more professional, to be able to discuss about guidelines, to be able to do lots of other things, and also proper governance, of course. Then to the future, near future, about VPAM, we are going to sign the new Articles of Association for VPAM, which means that we will have a new VPAM organization association, as you wish, based on Swiss law this year. So 12th of November will be the official date where the co-founding VPAM members can sign the new Articles of Association. So I think that's a very interesting and good step forward.
All right, and the new structure, how will it be that it would be any different to the current structure, and what are the advantages that it will bring to industry by virtue of this new structure?
We will be organized in a way according to the new Articles of Association, where we have a board, which is a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And next to the board, we will have our members. That is the way we are organized right now as well. And there will be an advisory board, and that means that in German Beirat, which means that this group of advisors to VPAM, of course up to the VPAM members how we are organizing that, will be able to tell us what's happening. Today we write standards and guidelines based on our own expertise, and I think that's already of a very high level. But our boots on the ground are missing. We sometimes are seen as a black box. We need to work on proper governance. And I think this new legal entity and this new structure makes it possible to also listen better to the market.
All right, very good. So the attendees, the delegates at the CAV Forum and the civilian armoured vehicle industry are obviously most interested in the testing standards in relation to both ballistic protection and blast protection. So maybe to help along with people, to provide them just with a brief overview of those two testing standards and how VPAM approached those.
And it was interesting to see when we were in Brussels 2 years ago, where the first questions came up about ERV Edition 3, Explosion Resistant Vehicle Edition number 3. Currently, we have edition number 2, mentioned on the website of VPAM, which is the standard. And the edition number 3 is on customer request. Why is that? Because it's not fully transparent. And the questions that were asked during the CAV forum in Brussels are still the questions today. So being chair of VPAM, I think it's very important that we get this legal entity in place so that we can discuss a guideline that is workable and executable for the industry. I think it's not good if we have a 3-star rating on a 4-meter blast and a 1-star with a 2-meter blast, and people are asking themselves, what is the better or best solution here? So we need to educate end users. I think that's a very important step, and that is a question I have for the industry. If there's a need for information, ask VPAM members, because they know. They can inform you about this. So we are going to work on the not being transparent guideline number 3. And in comparison, number 2 is the one since 2017 that is still active and can be used as well. So that is, I think, a quick update on the editions.
I'm
Some
going
end
to jump
users,
in now, and because the points you just made, I think, are some of the critical issues that we've received as feedback from users and from up armouring companies as well. Two parts being, the first being that of the transparency, where a vehicle will go for explosive for blast testing, and there's not sufficient transparency and information provided back to the up armourer and available then to the end user as a result of the conditions and the parameters of the testing. What you then raise, which is, I cannot tell you how many times we've seen this by the end users, being that exact question. If someone with 3 stars at a 4 metre distance of blast is then put up against another option of a 2-star at 2 metres or a 1-star, which is better? And the answer is, we can't tell you. There is no information out there. There is opaqueness about it. And it is terribly frustrating for the end users. So any further development within the VPAM program and entity, and if I may say culture, is such that it will be of tremendous benefit to the industry along the way. All right, so is there any program at the moment or a time frame at the moment in relation to updating either the BRV, the ballistic resistant vehicle test standards, or the ERV, the explosive resistant vehicle standards? Are we going to see new additions sometime into the near future?
that fully depends on the VPAM members and their willingness to discuss about this. I don't think there's any issue about the ballistics for vehicles. I think the BRV, it's in place, it works, and it can always be upgraded, of course. In terms of the ERV, I hear the rumors as well. There is going to be a new ERV, and there's going to be an ERV4, and that is a lot of cost for the vehicle manufacturers because it's testing again, and etc., etc. I'm there to support the industry. We are there to support the industry. VPAM does not want any additional testing to be done. But I think it's very important that we discuss with everybody that is willing to join VPAM, and we are open to new members. We've been in discussion with the BKA, the PTI has information, the German test houses and other members have the information. Internationally, even the UN is interested in hearing more about VPAM. But everybody says, once a legal entity is in place, then we can really work on I'm not saying a new guideline, because that would maybe arouse some, I don't know exactly how to put that, but nobody should be scared about there's a new edition coming up. I'll have to wait with my vehicle and the testing campaign and the like. Nothing like that. Do what you do, and I think it's very important that we educate the users and the end users. Once there is going to be a new VPAM edition for the ERV, I would like to have a discussion with the industry first. That's my personal opinion, and I will also tell that to the VPAM members. I think it would be interesting to hear from the market how this is working for them. What can we as VPAM improve to make it better for them? In the end, it's about occupant safety, and that is our key priority.
Indeed, and I'm glad that you raised that. And I think that, and certainly having been in a procurement agency and as a fleet manager and driving around in the vehicles that I used to look after for the Australian government, there is a disconnect between the user and procurement side of the equation and that of the the VPAM itself. And there is a lack, which you've highlighted, of interconnectivity and feedback loop, almost a 360-degree feedback loop, from the development of the testing standards, the testing methodology, the test results, the people who buy the vehicles, and the people who maintain and use the vehicles. And I would certainly be reflecting comments from our clients that there is a role through an occasional advisory or a somewhat regular advisory program, annually, biannually, whatever, whereby the users are able to interact with the VPAM as an organisation and its test members, so that they are able to hear firsthand from the different users and procurement agencies. And again, that's not a homogenous group either. The people who are building vehicles for use in Eastern Europe, for example, will have different elements and issues to those of Africa or the Middle East, or in the Central and South American regions. The threats are different. The environmental factors are different. It's such that the best way to understand what are the standards required is to understand, again, the operating theatres, the threats, and the challenges of managing and operating a fleet. And that's one of the focuses of this year's CAB Forum, is to focus on the fleet management and the challenges. And I'll have a plug for my presentation, in that fleet management is just a very small part of a very large holistic program that starts with specifications and standards and testing and production and quality assurance within that process. And then you can start to look after the vehicle. And it really does start to that extent with the testing standards and how it is that you guys are testing it. All right.
All right. Adding to that, Rob, thank you for that information. What we, of course, hear from the market, VPAM is not as a black box as it used to be. So we are there to give answers to the industry. And one of the questions that was asked by several entities, by several users and end users, is, how do I know if the vehicle that was initially tested during a campaign is the same vehicle with the same material, with the same everything, the protection concept, as vehicle number 84? That is something that is, of course, very difficult for VPAM to check. On the other hand, maybe the industry has an idea to make sure that there is some checks and balances that can be done. Maybe some consulting or stripping a vehicle number 50 to see if it's still the same as number 1, as the initial vehicle. On the other hand, and I need to be honest about that as well, VPAM is an association, and in the near future a legal entity. So we will have some more power, and hopefully with our governance we can do a very, very good job for the industry, end users, and everybody around it, that we write standards and guidelines. We have ballistic experts in the field of vehicle testing. We are not an organization that repairs vehicles. We are not an organization that takes care of those kind of things. We write guidelines and standards, and that is what we do very well, because our standards for helmets, vests, and vehicles are internationally recognized. So I think we should really stick to that. However, if VPAM becomes a little bit of a larger organization, so we have more means to maybe do things like this, we of course are happy to discuss about this. But that is up to the members to decide, because I think we need to stick to what we do best, and that is very good standards and guidelines, and making sure that people who are serving us get protected.
Look, it's excellent point that you've raised, and certainly in the last two cab forums, and we'll raise it again, we've raised the issue as Armoured Consulting on the need of what we call conformity of production. And the issue you've raised is exactly right. And it actually comes in two parts. Issue number one is that vehicle 50 is produced with the same materials, the same production methodology, and to the same standard and process of manufacturing as what was certified. And then a procurement agency and a fleet manager and a user and a occupant can then have the confidence that the vehicle that they're traveling in, that they've bought, that they're maintaining, is in fact the one that has been certified. Now, that's a level of confidence that is required, but from a manufacturer's perspective, it has some challenges. And one challenge is that certain wiring may not be available, or a ballistic glass manufacturer that was used for the certification has now gone out of business, no longer produces maybe that particular level of glass, and they've moved to another manufacturer. So there's a process, and this is the two parts. One is a process whereby a manufacturer, an up armourer, can then recertify their vehicle based on a replacement component without the need for a full vehicle blast or ballistic testing. It just becomes uneconomical. So there needs to be some methodology, and I think that's where the VPAM organisation comes into it. The issue of conformity of production, my particular view is that's not a VPAM role, because there is an argument to be said that the people who make the laws should not be the people who police the laws. There's a separation of powers, as we have with the legislation of the legislature of a country, that writes laws is different to the courts who make judgment, and a police department who enforce. These are separate levels within a system, and I think the same would go for VPAM. And certainly this is something that our organisation has been developing, continues to develop, a process by which understanding what the vehicle was for vehicle zero, and then being able to take a vehicle out of production and look at that and do a comparison, and using skilled experts from the get-go, if you like, those people involved with the testing itself, and the experts, engineering experts, to be able then to make a valid engineering empirical review of those two, to then give a degree of confidence to industry, to the end users, that the vehicle in fact is the same. All right, we might leave it there as. Oh no, you're back on board. Great. And my apologies to all the listeners. Poor Tim is sitting in a hotel, I think in Germany, and running off his mobile phone with his computers. And as good as technology is, we are still slaves to, I still think it's the little mice who are running around in a wheel trying to make this work. So maybe any final comments that you may have there, Tim, for us?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good point. It's very important, of course, to make sure that the end users and the users of vehicles are certain that the vehicle they're driving in meets the standards that are required. And that means that goes for vehicle number 1, as well as for vehicle number 100. And that should not depend on what edition it's tested according to. So again, I would like to stress that although edition 2 came, of course, before edition 3, that's how it works with the following of numbers, there has never been a bad intention of edition 3. It's just that this makes very clear to me, and this is my personal opinion, although you can think about what is probably the best, is this also seen as being the best? And I think we have a lot of work to do there. And the only thing that we can do is stay in touch with each other, making sure that we connect. And I'm trying to connect the dots within VPAM and the outside world. No longer black box, full transparency. And I think that goes for our articles of association as well. These will be shared with anyone who would like to join VPAM. And of course, it's up to the VPAM members and the board to decide what can you contribute to VPAM so that we get the best possible standards out there. And I think that is critical for occupant safety when we talk about this.
Excellent. And I think, just I suppose as a final remark, being that I think industry would be applauding. I hope the audience is, or whoever's listening to this, watching this video, would be applauding in that the changes we believe are overdue. They're very, very welcome. The ongoing professionalism within VPAM is acknowledged and appreciated by industry. And whether it be a procurement agency, fleet managers, country officers, users, even the workshops that are then servicing these vehicles in the remote areas would be welcoming of a broader picture within VPAM as to its relationship with industry and that 360-degree relationship between industry that VPAM serves and VPAM for which it needs industry to continue to produce and protect those people that are put into harm's way. So thank you very much, Tim, for your time. Thank you to the mobile phone network that's mostly done a very good job for us, and the mice that's running around in the little wheel that's been helping us today too.
We'll ask the audience, and hopefully we can do an even better job the next time. And looking forward to meet everybody that is currently attending the CARE Forum, and wishing you all the best. Good luck this week, and we'll be in touch soon, Rob.
Excellent. And we look forward to next year. Please, you'll be available and you can give us an update in person without the mice and the wheels. So that would be appreciated. Excellent. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Tim.
You too. Have a good one.
Thanks.